Sounds good. All right. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Lauren.
We're back.
We are back. It's almost New Year's Eve.
Yep. I think we took a 2.5 week hiatus because I popped out a kid.
I mean, just a casual birth.
Just
hiatus.
a birth in our Conspireality family. So now here we are. And
thought you wouldn't want to do this for a while, so I wasn't prepared.
Well, what do you do at 3 a.m. when you're waiting for your child to finish feeding? You watch Bravo.
Exactly. There you go.
So we got through it. So, okay. So let's see here. They didn't have episodes last week. So we're actually going back to the last two.
Yes.
Salt Lake City, New York, Beverly Hills, and then Southern Charm has premiered.
Southern Charm has
since
started.
we've last spoken.
And next week, Southern Hospitality starts.
Oh gosh. Those shows are really close, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the crossovers that exist. I'm
so
like,
we can maybe blur them together
Yeah.
with Southern Charm. Yeah.
because it's a little like, how does one get cast on Southern Charm versus Southern Hospitality at this point? Like Sally.
If you're younger and you work at Leva's,
But Sally
yeah, no,
is now made it to the big leagues.
I have a bit to say about her.
Yes, exactly. Okay, we'll get there. Okay, so we're going to start first with Salt Lake City. And then I do think we're going to do a little Bravo in the headlines because big bombshell just dropped.
Literally today.
Like an hour ago, Jessica.
Yes.
Craig and Paige are broken up. Dunzo.
Yeah.
I think this was more obvious than what everyone else seems to think. But
Yeah. Did we not talk about their relationship real early days?
Yes. Well, because Jessica, every time she and him are shown on camera, specifically for Southern Charm, it feels like the uninterestedness from her, that's not even a word, but like
I know
the lack of interest in her to him is so shocking to me.
She's like,
I even made note of it on the Southern Charm.
note. Now I'm remembering what we talked about because we were talking about how like New York girls are trying to do that cool girl, like they don't care, but that she would like take it to the next level where we're like, do you hate your boyfriend?
Yeah, like do you actually? She showed more love to Madison when Madison walked in than she had to any sense of Craig. I mean, I don't think this is shocking at all. I think that he served a season in her life, and I think he would have married her in a heartbeat, and I think she outgrew him. And frankly, I mean, she's blowing up. She's like literally becoming one of the biggest Bravo celebrities in the fashion world, to be honest. So, I mean, we can talk more about it. But so that Bravo in the headlines just happened, and then obviously James Kennedy.
Oh my God, yes.
We can talk about
DV,
that. But anyway, let's get into Salt Lake because let's get down to business.
Yeah.
So, all right. So they get, this is going back a couple episodes now. So they're heading towards Mexico. This is Lisa's group trip. One question for you I have right off the bat. Do you think she actually paid for this?
I don't think so. This is where it gets I'm so confused because I know for a fact Bravo pays for at least one of the big cast trips. And I remember hearing if you want to like upgrade, so like your flight is paid for, but if you want first class, you're paying the difference. It's sort of like that.
Right.
So, but then it's like, do they say to Lisa, okay, you're planning it in quotes, here's your budget, and then if she chooses to go above and beyond it, it's on her own dime.
I have a hot take on this because I think she struck a deal with Bravo on Vida Tequila being shown, and then she did a big write-off on it.
Yeah.
Because
that dinner party.
Yeah, that dinner party with the big Vida sign and Vida Tequila's mentioned out throughout the whole thing. Like, I think there was a little negotiation on this trip because I do think the trip seems nicer in some aspects than what they've had in the past. Like, those villas are beautiful.
Yeah.
They flew, it sounds like they flew first class. Yeah. And she has little things along the way that she's done.
Yeah.
To me, maybe Bravo was like, we'll pay for up to X amount, and then you're going to pay for the rest. And then she said, okay, then I want Vida shown at every step of the way. Literally.
And then was it Whitney that made the shady comment, like, I don't think they have the budget to do commercials, so like this dinner party.
Well, I mean, you don't need to do commercials when you have a big light up Vida sign behind her.
I agree. I mean, yeah, we can all hate on it and be like, okay, everything's branded, but it's a amazing platform. I've never seen Vida Tequila in real life.
No,
I've never seen it.
I don't think it's made it to the Midwest.
Okay, now I actually want to go to a Binny's and
And,
see if
like,
I can find it.
Yeah, and try it. Once we're both there, we'll try it and actually see what it is.
Yes.
Okay, so they're at the airport, and Bronwyn shows up, first of all, with a gift that pisses Lisa off, which I thought was hilarious. So cute. I thought those things were quite cute.
Little passport
And then
holders.
second, that she was attacked by the dog, which, let's talk about this for a minute.
I just got chills thinking back. Like, literally, as you said it, that is horrible.
Yeah.
Her bruises, and you can literally see the puncture wounds.
Well, also, I have seen mixed reports that she and Todd have separated because of that. Like, it's not fully news, but I've seen, not just read it, I've seen like actual articles that they've separated.
Yes, I've seen that too. But I've also seen, weirdly, a different twist that their dogs have been guilty of biting and stuff like that. So when that scene happened, I literally had just read about allegedly her dogs attacking. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was another dog or something. I don't think it was.
No, I read the same thing.
Yeah.
I wrote this down.
And so then when it was that she was attacked by a dog at the dog park, I was like, wait, do we think it was her dog? Was it her own dog?
No.
No? Okay.
She had some quote that said that the dog was doing that because of some medical issue the dog was having, and they actually helped find a new home for the dog, meaning the owner was not being attentive, I think. And then she culminated by saying she just hopes the dog, both her and the dog, get better soon. But I think because, Jessica, to your point around their dogs have had issues, they were sued for
$360,000.
Yes, thank you. 2 different delivery drivers, 2 different lawsuits.
Oh, that was it. Delivery drivers. Yes.
So I don't know, this whole dog thing. I think she feels like she can't say a ton about the dog because they've had dog issues.
Yes. For once, a housewife is not being hypocritical.
Right.
And going after the owner.
Right.
When your dogs have done that to people.
She's like, my dogs are just as bad. But then the Todd thing, it's like, we don't know.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't show up.
That is horrible.
Disgusting, I think.
He sucks. I hate him.
I think just like humanity wise, not even like, oh, I'm dating this person, not even I'm married, but like just as a human, if you called me and said, I think I got bit by a dog, I'm going to the hospital, I would be like, okay, what do I need to do to be there?
First of all, I'd say, you think you got bit by a dog? or
I think this is bad,
No, I'm just kidding. I know. The fact your own husband, and it even sounded like he was in town. This wasn't he was in Japan.
Right.
Okay, then you're a little bit like, do you fly home from Japan? That's like a touch and go situation. It sounded like he was freaking in Salt Lake City and he didn't go to the hospital.
Right. Well, also too, I don't like this fact that Gwen seems to keep getting in like the mix with them a little bit. Like the fact that she calls him and says, like, puts her mom on FaceTime and says, it's bad, you should come.
Yeah.
And then we also hear, just jumping ahead, about the affair, and Gwen was
She's
the one
who saw it.
So
I know.
That's a weirdly complex thing that's going on. That Gwen is like kind of in the middle
and
of like.
Also, isn't Gwen, she's 17 or 18?
Yeah.
Bronwyn made that sound like it was years ago. Gwen was like 13 or 14 when she like read that emotional affair text or whatever.
I don't know. That was super weird too. So we don't know if they're separated, but I did see a Watch What Happens Live where Bronwyn was on it. And they had like a split screen, Jessica, like one camera on Todd and one camera on Bronwyn.
I watched that Watch What Happens Live.
I mean,
she did clarify, which I don't remember if the episode did, but I felt like it was new to me when she said it on Watch What Happens Live, that that was purely an emotional affair.
Yes, right.
Never physical.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I was like,
Well, and Lisa, and I mean, we're jumping all over, but Lisa is very clearly, her reaction to Bronwyn is very clear that it's like she's worried about how the public will receive Todd because she's dropping the fact that he's got an affair. Like he's coming up with a fun, he has business associates. She's very worried about the optics, as Lisa clearly now is. Like, we just know that about her. But I'm like, I don't think the optics are working on him just anyway.
No.
She didn't have to drop that affair. Like, the fact that we
already didn't like him.
Yeah, we didn't like him. So I didn't think that was like a valid point.
Yeah,
that was defending Todd.
That point that Lisa, it was kind of a Lisa and Meredith were in agreement, and that's where I went, oh, okay, maybe that's why you two were such good friends at one point. the materialistic side of everything is like what everything comes back to.
Yeah, right.
They literally loved that Bronwyn got like a diamond ring out of his apology.
Yeah, right.
They were like, oh, she was like, I love that.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, oh my God. Like, that is where I can never be a full Lisa Barlow stan.
Right, right.
I know people say she is great TV. She is self-centered, and that is what usually makes a great housewife, but it's just something about her that I'm like, I can see why people are like, you're so fake.
Yeah,
like, I
right.
can't be friends with you because that's all you care about.
Right. Well, even the trip, right? We just talked about it, like the Vida Tequilas and everywhere.
Yeah.
And she's taking them to that part of Mexico because that's where Vida is.
It's very Bethany Frankel.
Yeah,
Didn't they do
right.
that in RHONY?
Yeah,
they
that's
went to where the tequila for her Skinny
yeah,
Girl
that's where
was
it's
made.
produced.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so then, I mean, Bronwyn also has this like weird ongoing fight with Lisa, starting with the fact that Lisa doesn't put her in the villa. Then she keeps coming back to it at group dinners.
Yeah.
This fight to me is so odd, Jessica, because it's like, it seems like Lisa cannot freaking process in her small like brain why Bronwyn is still mad at her, which is the essence of why the fight keeps happening.
Yeah. She's not seeing her side at
like
all.
it's like her she doesn't process like that. It's not about the villa, it's not about the, you know, whatever the other things are.
Yeah.
It's about the fact that Bronwyn keeps looking to Lisa to have her back, and Lisa does not, and then
Right.
in not doing that, she's like pissed about it.
Right. It was a guest on a Watch What Happens Live. It was not the one Bronwyn was on, but it was kind of like someone asking whose side are you on, Lisa or Bronwyn? And actually the person, I think it was like one of these comedians, she had a great point where she goes, I totally see where Bronwyn is coming from, but she has to pick her battles.
Yeah.
That's where they were like, it's getting too nitpicky.
Yeah, right.
And I was agreeing, like, Bronwyn's not happy with anything Lisa does. So then I see where Lisa's getting so frustrated.
But also,
or
Jessica,
frustrated, as Lisa would say.
Frustrated, true.
Okay. I don't think she's super smart.
Right.
But I also
Right.
think she's low emotional IQ.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like she's buffering when everyone else is like on to the next thing. Lisa's like buffering it, and Bronwyn's like getting mad, and Lisa doesn't even have a chance to like get to the same spot.
Right. That's so true.
That's what I think is happening on this fight.
And I get the vibes Bronwyn is quite intelligent.
Yes.
So she is already like pages ahead of Lisa before Lisa's realizing what's happening.
Yes. Anyway, so we're on this weird fight that just keeps happening. It's so interesting too. It's like every time Brittany tries to get in the mix and fight with somebody, and Angie and Meredith, and then it always just goes back to Lisa and Bronwyn, you know?
Brittany is like, why does it never stay on me? It literally shifts to another fight so quickly. Brittany's like, what the F? Like, I can't get any screen time.
Yeah, right. And she always, I saw this one post, I'm going to use it now. Like she always goes, ting, ting, ting.
Yeah.
I have an announcement. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So anyway, interesting enough, I feel like Whitney is very like mute kind of throughout all of this.
Yeah.
But then is going really hard in her confessionals. And I feel like Jessica, something has happened to her where she's like drank too much, or she didn't really want to participate. She like kind of got burned out. And but then the confessional, she goes so hard. She like is so messy. So it will be interesting to see like how she does at the reunion, because I think she realized she kind of was a non-player, and then she went hard at the confessionals, and now we'll see what she does. But being so mad at Lisa, you know, it's weird that she's like so in the weeds, in the back.
Her spot is for sure in jeopardy.
I agree.
She really has been a non-starter this season. And have you heard rumblings that allegedly her and Justin are getting divorced?
Oh, really?
And everyone's going, she's banking on that for her.
Oh, her big storyline next season.
Which we don't see any cracks.
No. Well, none that she's actually revealed. She's just
Right.
so about going at Lisa in the confessionals.
Yeah. So I would be quite shocked if that rumor is true that they're getting divorced. But yeah, oh God, that's what's like, this is where you're like, how horrible that you are potentially thinking how you can frame this horrible thing in your life to stay on a show.
Right.
If that is at all true. Like,
Well, it just goes to show you how much the show does for these people,
Yeah.
you know, with like money and Vida and, you know, the airtime. So
And her Alibaba jewelry line.
yeah. All right. And then we have Meredith and Angie. Meredith gives back the gift of the Kerastase to Angie.
And it was kind of thrown at Brittany.
Yeah, right.
That was weird.
I think it's so funny that Meredith brought that because the only thing I kept thinking, Jessica, was how much those bottles must have weighed in her suitcase. And I would have never have brought that because it would have taken up too much room.
Precious cargo space.
Like that, those things were probably 2 pounds each.
Easily. Yeah. I know. I wonder what their luggage allotment is on these
Yeah,
trips. Because
right.
we always see them. I mean, the Beverly Hills women come in. They all have their own luggage cart. Like, no one's dragging 2 suitcases.
No,
they are
right,
pushing a
right.
cart with their bags on
Right.
it. Meredith, another one that if I was casting, I kind of think Meredith and Whitney right now.
Yeah.
I would say those two. And bring in, I hate to say it, but maybe Brittany's full-time. Maybe she's not friend of next
I mean, she's
year.
causing enough drama. So let's move into episode 2. So they go on the yacht, and I want to move into episode 2 because the second episode we're going to recap because I don't know. First of all, Meredith is like sleeping in the car. To your point about like, where is Meredith? Like, come to play.
So
like,
checked out.
Don't have your Dramamine. Don't have your Xanax. Don't mix the pills with the alcohol because I feel like she's done this before where she's been on a trip and like been quietly in the background because she hasn't felt well over something. Did you see what she was wearing? It was that she had like a black ball gown on and super spiked heels. And Angie had to go back and like get her to like hold her up. I'm like, what outfit is this?
Were those the shoes when you heard I'm going on a yacht today?
It was like
that was the shoe you went with?
Jessica, it was giving that she was walk of shame. It was giving like like, oh, I wore this last night and now I was...
And it was so short.
And then it had that weird
like
kind of...
tail to it. Yes.
And everyone else was like in like tennis shoes and like crop
Caftans.
tops. Yes.
To go on a floaty boat
I was like,
outfit.
what are you doing, Meredith? And then to be like basically snoozing the entire time because you took some medicine that didn't react well.
Right.
Which I think is what happened. That's what Reddit was saying.
Yeah, I think she might be a bit of a pill popper.
Okay, so then we hear the big Browen announcement, right? That she got cheated on by Todd, and you said it right. It wasn't physical. It was emotional. There was a moment that I felt like I don't think Lisa looked good in any aspect of this fight.
No, she did not.
There was a moment that Lisa kind of shifted. This is so small, but I thought it was so funny. She like shifted in her seat, and I thought she was going to get up and go hug Browen. Nope, she was just moving.
Nope, she was just uncomfortable in that seat.
Could be seen behind her. Snoozing Meredith, who's taking a nap.
Literally, who had no comment.
Like
other than accusing Bronwyn of maybe being the reason Todd did it. Other
like
than
sleeping
that
with
part.
her eyes open, yes. And then chimes in to basically say Browen was the reason. But interesting. So on the after show, all of them, like you can kind of see people standing up for her. Heather has that big kind of monologue, right?
Yep.
That's really nice.
Yep.
I love when I thought what Heather said was like perfect.
Yeah.
Like needed to be said.
Yep.
And then you can even tell the rest of them are shocked and feel sorry for her. On the after show, all of them have switched their tune. All of them have said on the after show that they couldn't believe Browen divulged that on like live TV, and they felt bad for Todd. Even Heather, by the way, was saying that.
What?
Yes. I think the next day, Heather relates it to like the next day on the trip, Browen posts some picture with Todd and like writes some gushy thing about how she loves him. And Heather thought that was like such a flip-flop that she thought it was suspicious.
It was almost like, oops, I had my moment of true honesty, but whoops, I don't want to ruin where the money comes from.
And that's kind of it, right? I mean, like, when she's talking about all the Todd issues, it seems like that dynamic of like him being older and wealthier is like doing some kind of mind warp on her.
100%.
Because it's like she needed him while she was having the kid, and then he provided a life, provided security, maybe even acted a bit as a dad mentor to her. Yeah. That was weird to me that
if Bronwyn keeps on the trajectory she's on, and I see her on at least definitely next season, I see her on a third for herself. Mm-hmm. I'd say by 3 we will be getting a divorce.
I agree. I think I mean reality TV is like the mirror that you you like have to see like yourself, right?
Right.
So, and then of course the last bit that I just want to go back to Lisa is she says at the end of the story that Browning gives, you're so much more relatable now. After she's told that story about Todd, right?
Yeah.
And then continues to also say Todd's going to lose his mind when he sees this.
Yeah. And then it ends at basically the Vida Tequila merch dinner. And it ends with Angie then still going at Lisa going, wow, what Bronwyn just shared is like more than you've ever shared,
I
Lisa.
didn't get that. I'm like,
either.
you guys both said you talked every day together.
Yeah.
Is it just Angie being shady and
I
saying
think
basically
so.
like...
I think so.
Basically,
that was
like,
so
there's
random.
more that... I think something's happening financially with Lisa. Like, there's been a lot of, like, articles in the news about, like, them not paying back people they've borrowed money
that
from.
Have lent them stuff,
And one lawsuit I saw Lisa tried to get dismissed because it had been too long.
Yep.
And that's, like, bullshit. Like, it's like, pay back the money. Don't try and get the lawsuit dismissed.
Yeah. I mean, are there statute of limitations on loans? Right. I don't think so.
Right.
But you know what? Now that you say it, what I wonder if Angie is in a way hinting, like you have told me so much more privately and you don't talk about any of that.
Right. And then she's financial issues, marital issues. Like, is there more to Lisa than, what's being led on?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the last thing we need to talk about is Mary and Robert. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's a huge.
That Mary came a little late. Yep.
So one thing I'm seeing online. So you and I talked about this early on, and people hated on us that we didn't necessarily like think Mary to be this like amazing human being,
right? Just
because she's dealing with this.
Yeah.
And then what happened is she's now, she's gotten some really heart-wrenching scenes with her son.
Yep.
And people now are turning the pendulum swinging back the other way again, right? Because people are saying that she acted in that scene just because she didn't know about the drugs. But she, in fact, did know about the drugs because Robert Jr. has had a DUI before that, driving under the influence. Yeah. And part of the court-ordered solution to the DUI was that he has to go to rehab. So the rehab that they showed was that
actually court ordered?
Was the court ordered rehab? That's what people are saying online. Now this is alleged, so don't,
because we don't know the timeline.
We don't know the timeline. Yeah. We don't know if this is true or not. But people are saying that was court ordered rehab. That was not Mary's like, I'm going to peel him off the couch and get him intervention rehab.
Because I know, and obviously it's TV and, the timelines are sometimes never quite clear, but it did seem to me that she's like, I got to figure out Robert. I'm going to be late to like the Mexico trip. It felt very like she's like, I reached out and I got him into a rehab and it was like states away. I was like, that happened really fast.
And he was so willing to do it really fast, which I think is just
because he had to.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like maybe he knew that was coming. Anyway, so we don't know. I don't know. Don't hold us to this. But that was interesting to me. And people are actually not blaming Mary for this, but they're actually blaming Bravo because I think with the recent news of James Kennedy coming out, people are seeing a little bit more of the manipulation that Bravo is doing in some of this editing.
Yep.
And they think that they actually may have edited out some of that context. So it seemed more in the moment for Mary to give Mary like a better edit.
Yeah. And everyone always claims about the bad edit. So why? They normally love showing your worst moment. Why are they not doing that to Mary then?
Right. I know. And it's weird. It's weird. So the other thing too, by the way, is she gave an update on him on the after show. She doesn't give him money anymore.
Oh.
You remember how he came to her that one time? He's like, can I have some money? And she's like, for what?
He's like, food.
And then she said he is going to go live in Vegas with Robert Sr. to take him away from like some of the like triggers.
Because Vegas really sounds like the amazing spot to go if you need to go into recovery.
Well, she said he's still kind of hanging out with some of his old like friends.
At least to get, if it's the people, it just seems like literally Sin City is the place to get clean. Yeah.
And then the last thing she said is she doesn't think he's married because he didn't submit the marriage certificate appropriately.
So we've got like a Jackson Brittany situation or a Schwartz and Katie.
Exactly. Like she thinks he went through with some
Yeah,
sort of
but
marriage
the
ceremony.
The admin didn't happen.
Admin didn't happen. So she thinks maybe he's not actually married.
It should be like kind of easy to figure this out.
Well, she said
all of that is on record.
She called around to try and find it,
yeah.
and she couldn't find a record of it.
Okay, then he's not. Oh, and then just side note, I sent you a picture. I started reading Heather Gay's second book.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Good Time Girl. I did not read Bad Mormon. I just skipped.
I read Bad Mormon, by the way.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So far, I'm not getting any juice. It's a lot about her childhood. I'm quite bored. I guess if we're going chronologically, I gotta wait till we get to the more recent.
Yeah.
But there are just so many comments like she has always wanted to be. She keeps saying, I knew I always wanted a big life. So when people say like she's always been like trying to be with the cool kids, and it's very apparent that she's been striving for this. So being on the show is like her dream.
It also seems like this season she's with the cool kids finally, and she's really good friends with Meredith. She's got better friends with Lisa, and she's not tipping the apple cart for anything.
Yeah.
Like, all we are getting from Heather this season is facial expressions at, like, big group dinners when stuff goes down. Okay, which one do you want to do next? New York?
Yeah, let's just do New York.
Okay.
Also on their trip.
Their big trip. So, let's see here. A couple of quick hits. When they get to Puerto Rico, first of all, running to the rooms. That was like very reminiscent of Real Housewives of New York, like OGs.
Ramona and Sonia always being like, well, we're going to room together so we get the nicest.
And then they have drama with it. Like,
yeah.
It's like totally like
Uba.
OG.
Yeah. Uba in the like maid's quarters.
Yeah. But Uba is really throwing a lot of temper tantrums right now.
She was being such a diva.
And then Rebecca kind of says that thing about the 4 kids, when you'll have them.
Ooh.
That's like a theme throughout the season, is like there's the people who are not able to necessarily conceive easily, and then the people who are, and it seems like Rebecca like throwing that around, like she kind of knew she was being messy, but she didn't realize like how ridiculous that it probably came off to the side that.
Where do you stand with that comment?
I think that people use like their kids sometimes in the way that they know that others can't like have a leg to stand on. Like I felt like she was using it in the moment to be able to say, Bryn doesn't know what it feels like, so I'm going to say this. I don't think she meant it as like coming after Bryn, that Bryn, is like having problems with her pregnancy.
Which she then later said she didn't even know Bryn was going through that.
I've always felt like even in the corporate world, sometimes people use their kids as like the untouchable excuse of like when they need to leave a meeting, when they need to go pick somebody up, why they can't do something. And I felt like this was a little bit of like that, where she was like using like some untouchable excuse that like why she deserved a single room. Yeah. But the reality is I don't know. It definitely didn't land. No. It was not the right thing to be saying to Bryn or really within this group.
I see that comment both ways. She could have obviously said it way better with the like, I'm just exhausted. I'm always sharing a bed with little kids. Like, I would just love a single, as opposed to then firing it at Bryn. Like, you don't get that though. Right. Just saying her experience of why she wanted the room, no one would be mad, other than I'm sure Bryn would still be like, who cares? That was your choice to have all those kids. And like, so I was a little torn, but yeah, it came off not well. Right.
Yes. And Bryn, I thought Bryn's reaction was so cringy, where she's like, I have Russian billionaires calling me. I have dogs. I'm like, Bryn,
put your phone on Do Not Disturb if your Russian billionaires are waking you up.
Yeah, I love how Jess was like, billionaires? There's multiple?
Yeah. They were like, wait, can you... Jessel always makes those funny comments where I'm like, girl, you are married with kids. And she's always like, can you introduce me? It's like, what are you going to do, Jessel, with a Russian billionaire?
Social climb. We know Jessel.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so the prank with Jessel's suitcase, like, I'm like... First of all, I would have fucking freaked out if my suitcase was like...
And she said her passport and everything was in it.
Oh my God. I would have probably been freaking out harder than Jessel.
And
Bryn's like,
sick.
Just get her... She gets her undies in a bundle. I'm like, no, this is kind of like legit that you did that.
I want someone to do it to Bryn and... Okay, even though I'm freaking sick of these stupid pranks. I actually want someone to do it to Brynn and Aaron and see how funny they think. You know what I mean? It's always them doing it to someone else going, oh my God, don't take it so seriously. It's like, but someone needs to do it back to you.
Well, and also don't do it on vacation. Like, remember last year somebody took Uba's phone?
Oh, yeah.
And Uba freaked out?
I think Aaron
I would have freaked out too.
I think Aaron did.
Both of those things I would have freaked out.
Yeah.
Probably a little harsher than what Jessel was doing. And then there's Uba and Sai and Aaron, and they're all calling Aaron a gaslighter. I think the big thing with this gaslighter comment, this is like, I think, kind of bad to be calling somebody.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I think in this day and age, calling someone a gaslighter is like kind of on par of like almost in the territory of like domestic violence. Like if someone's manipulating your emotion and making you think that you're crazy, and the flippantness of which they're throwing it around, like, oh, Aaron's a gaslighter, like the sky is blue, you know, I'm wearing a gray thing and Aaron's a gaslighter. I'm like, that's not, you can't, it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's another one where it's like the more we overuse that word incorrectly, it's losing like its true meaning and power. And it is a very strong like allegation to say someone is gaslighting you. And so it's almost one of those like boy who cries wolf. I'm like, stop saying that when that is not what she's doing.
No.
Maybe saying she's manipulative, you know, something manipulative is still pretty strong, but not with like the sense of like what I agree with what gaslighter like carries with it.
Right.
So I get why Aaron gets so upset about that. And I watched that, you know, when they did that Bravo Fan Fest in Miami, Aaron and Uba were on it together, and they did like the kind of watch what happens live with, I think it was Kyle and Garcelle. So they did like Beverly Hills and New York together. And so the two of them are besties right now, real life. So they're completely over all this stuff. Uba and Aaron. And Uba on the Watch What Happens Live in Miami even said, she was like, English is my second language. I did not mean to use that term.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. She claimed she did not know the weight that term carried. And no, Aaron is not a gaslighter. So she like clarified all that.
Come on. You can't say it that much and not know. Finally, then at the group dinner and kind of the first night there, right, is Rebecca stands up for herself and everyone's like, woo, go Rebecca. You know, it's so funny though, they are very silent in the moment, and then on all their confessionals they're like, finally.
I know.
Rebecca Minkoff, I mean, poor girl, she just has not had a good rub this season at all, and she's so successful. It's like, I
know, she should have been I think they thought she'd be a bigger splash than she was.
I was shopping online the other day, and I'm like, I was going through Nordstrom looking at stuff, and it was all Rebecca Minkoff. And I'm like, this is like, you forget she's just gotten such a bad rub from Brynn as kind of like the dork of the group that you forget, like,
just the wet blanket.
She's like probably the most successful housewife minus Bethany, don't you think?
Yeah, with business wise, I would
maybe
say.
Bose on the new Beverly Hills, but Bose doesn't have a product
from a brand standpoint. Like Skinny Girl and Rebecca Minkoff, like tons of people know those names.
Right. Anyway.
One other thing I had kind of forgotten about. Jenna admitting the Bentley was alone.
Yes.
Everyone then going, I think Aaron was onto something. And saying she did that clothing sale to pay off her teeth debt.
I looked up her net worth. It's $5 million. But it must be like assets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
if she
her
owns
house, her painting, you know. Her teeth.
God. Yeah, her teeth are worth a lot. That's insane to me, though. Like, I'm sorry, you're like living above your means if you literally have to sell clothing to pay off some of like your debts. And that's where I was like, oh, I think she literally needs the money. Remember when everyone after season 1 was like, Jenna Lyons is not coming back. She hated that. Everyone was positive she was going to leave. Oh, she was back. She needs that paycheck.
The last kind of major piece, the drama of this group, is the dick pic of Abe.
Oh my gosh.
And everyone making a big deal of it. It seems like this group, and this is maybe why I don't know what's going on with the viewership of this.
I actually don't know either. I haven't seen any.
But I think this group, like, it's too obvious that their gears turn in their brain and they go, this is drama that I can participate in now. Right? And that felt like that was like really
for the show.
Yes. It was for the show that she showed it. It was for the show that she said it at the lunch. And then it was for the show that a lot of people had opinions about it, like that were so like hot.
Yeah.
Like Uba, so hot. It's like, it feels like that's what
Uba
is
hot.
really obvious in this group, is that they're like, oh, this is something I'm going to have an opinion on.
This'll stir something
Yes,
up.
for the show.
Yeah. It's one of those where I'm like, that's your relationship if you want to, but I am on the side of that's weird.
That she showed it?
Yeah.
Huh.
First of all, I don't have one on my phone to show anyone, but I never would, because just think of the role reversal.
Yeah.
If Abe was showing the other husband's Aaron's vagina, would we all be laughing?
But I think
No, we would not. We would be like, that's horrible.
But Jessica, for men, when you're suggesting how big his
When
package
you're bragging
is,
about it, I guess.
and then they show it, and the girls are like, "Wow." To me, that's, for a man, that's like,
It's like a pat on the back.
Yes.
Okay. It's still his private parts. I don't know. I'm very prude in that
I wouldn't want to
sense.
see it. I think I would.
I would look if someone wanted to show me.
I would not look. I think it.
No, that's the funny thing. I would never show it, but if someone was willing to show, I would take a peek.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and something Bryn was on Watch What Happens Live and was asked what's going on with you and Gideon and, the fertility stuff. And she actually said, she goes, I told him he needed to go in for an appointment, basically to do probably a semen analysis and whatever. And she's like, he's had excuse after excuse, hasn't gone in. So I don't want to force someone to do this. So she's saying he kind of changed his tune since filming, and like nothing has progressed.
Yeah. I think she's gonna have to pull a Lala and go get a sperm
donor.
Yeah. I mean, her timeline is ticking. Like, she's kind of like Lindsay Hubbard a little bit with the timeline being in the way it is. Right. Yeah. She's
38. Is
that what it's also weird to me. First of all, Gideon, she broke up that engagement with him.
I think all of her engagements she ended.
Right. So now to be going back and also kind of saying like, can you do this lifelong commitment with me? Although I broke up the engagement with you, like,
which, mind you, is a big reason that you have a lot of money.
Right.
Would be really helpful to do this together.
It seems like mixed signals. That's what I'm trying to say to that man.
100%. No, I would feel very used if I was him. I'd be like, so I'm not good enough to marry, but you'll have a kid with me.
Right. And remember when she broke off the engagement, she had bridesmaids picked. So they were pretty far down the...
I think she said invites had gone out. Oh, dang.
So I'm sure he was embarrassed by that. And
the fact they remained friends is kind of crazy.
Right. Also, he works at Mauricio's,
agency. Works at the agency. Yep.
They have some huge blowout by next episode.
Yes, the previews.
And they've all said, like, basically they had to be separated. Like, after the blowout happens, they don't continue to film in Puerto Rico. Like, the group had to be separated.
It might be the finale.
Yeah. Because then we're dealing with...
And then we go to reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because reunion seating, by the way, Bryn and Uba are across from each other and closest to Andy. First chair.
Oh, my gosh.
So, anyway, I mean, we're going to go towards and see this huge blowout. But I don't think the blowout is going to carry the season. Like, I don't think you can sit there and say... it just is so juicy that now the season should be renewed in the way that it's
right.
We need something
we
different.
We saw like the preview clip includes it where they're kind of all like sitting in the beds and you can tell that fight happens, like in the villa in Puerto Rico, and that's where we get the line of like Bryn going, "You model for Dress Barn," like the diss to Uba.
Oh,
but like, what is the actual fight? Like, that's just like a zinger she's throwing at her.
Well, but the other zinger too that we see is that Uba says that Bryn slept with somebody to get on the show.
In the Sprinter van when the fight starts. Yeah, what the heck?
Interesting.
We will find out.
Okay, do you want to move on to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start with Oceanside, Kathy's trip.
Yes.
I think that Kathy's trip also suggests that Kathy may have paid for some things, like above and beyond what Bravo is able to deliver on.
Probably.
Dorit and Kyle have that big discussion at dinner where no one else can talk because they just are literally like yelling at each other.
That was one of the first times I feel like in a housewives argument, people weren't interjecting. Garcelle a little bit.
Yeah, right.
But I couldn't believe how quiet everyone stayed. Erica's name was being thrown around a million times, and she was still like, like, yep, I said that. Oh.
One thing I want to say about Kyle, she has huge lip filler this season. Have you noticed it? Kyle.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yeah, the reason why I know it is because she does things that are like very telltale signs of like that I've got my lips done and I'm not used to them yet.
Yeah.
And it's driving me nuts, Jessica. Like, her lip licking, she touches her lips together like this.
Like rubbing them.
Like doing this too much.
Almost like feeling how they feel.
Yeah. Smacking unnecessarily, like licking, like
what
running.
What is with the sisters? Kathy with her lip gloss addiction?
Kathy's got a neurosis with her lip gloss.
Yes.
Kyle has new lips and does not.
Oh, wow.
Does
okay.
not feel comfortable with them
I'm
yet.
gonna take a peek.
So then let's see. They go kind of to the next day, and Dorit and Kyle actually like somewhat reconcile, which I thought was like
quick.
Yeah, for how mad Dorit is on the yacht, right?
Yes. Oh my God, another yacht. Yes.
Right. It was shocking to me, but I think Dorit said the thing that like everyone just needs to say, which is like, I still want to be friends with you. I still love you. Yeah. And Kyle immediately is like, I needed to hear that, you know?
Yeah. You're not just fighting to fight. You do want to like a reconciliation.
Right. Okay. So also weirdly, Kathy asked Jennifer Tilly to get her lobster out using her actual fingernail.
Yeah.
That's like so disgusting. And then she also was brushing her teeth with that makeup brush.
Oh my God. I mean, Kathy
doesn't really talk at all throughout these episodes, but then we have these like weird.
They keep her on for those little weird cut to moments.
Yeah.
And then they show her telling like the chef on the boat how to cook.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you need to put that on the top rack of the grill.
Just embarrassing. Everything is super embarrassing.
I would cringe out of my skin if I was around her. Like, I can't handle that like stuff where someone is so aloof and
kind of disgusting, to be honest.
And rude to people, even though like to her she isn't, and that's what makes it even worse. She doesn't even realize she's being rude.
Yeah. So funny. And then Sutton has her moment where she basically has the repeat conversation that she had with Kyle, but now with Dorit.
With Dorit, like, I'll be there for you going through this. I've been through it.
Okay, so part of me is like, I would definitely take up Sutton's advice, but Sutton looked cuckoo in this later half of this couple of episodes with the ribbon ritual, and then the next day she kind of like loses her mind again.
Yeah. So I've seen chatter, which there's been previous chatter. I think it was just last season. Everyone is saying Sutton is an alcoholic.
Oh, really?
And they said that is why her stuff escalates. Like when Dorit calls her out on the Sprinter, like, why are you yelling at me all? You know what I mean? Like, they're like, and we saw her, did you see on that Sprinter, she's pouring vodka into her cup. It's like they're leaving the trip. It's 9 or 10 in the morning, and she is making a stiff vodka grapefruit drink on the way to the plane home. It's like,
I'm going to jump to this. So they go to that Denims and Diamonds thing at Kyle's place, and Sutton was getting a drink poured for her at the bar, and the cameraman zoomed in,
and she's a little more
the amount of vodka that was in the cup,
which
was, I would say, almost a full small glass of vodka.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's all a little bit of foreshadowing that they've been showing her, like,
doing the pour. The last thing I want to say is Sutton on the, we have another episode to recap, but Sutton on that yacht, she comes off very old to me.
Yeah.
And I was doing a Google test of like her age. Do you know she's younger than Jenna Lyons?
Oh my God.
Jenna Lyons is 56. Sutton is 53.
Aren't Sutton and Erica Jane 1 year apart?
That's another good Google.
I believe Erica Jane is 52.
Sutton reads as 60.
I always think she's going to like snap her little twig leg, like wherever she goes.
She just reads so old to me. When I realized she was younger than Jenna Lyons, I'm like,
it's something about that like Southern, when she really plays up her like Southernness. It is very pearl clutching, and I would never. It's like, okay.
I do declare, yeah.
I do declare.
And then we also get like Sutton and Garcelle moving the U-Haul to Garcelle's beach house. The thing I don't like, this is so crazy to me. They both make so much money. They would never do this unless it was.
That's why it was so for the show.
Yeah, it was.
Let's have a little funny thing of Sutton Strack driving a U-Haul.
It's like Sutton wouldn't even. I don't even think Sutton would paid for. Like she would have never moved anything herself. She would have never paid for a U-Haul. She would have never driven the U-Haul. Like there's so many things that I don't think even Garcelle would have done.
No.
And they get Avi like involved with it.
And did you see Sutton mentioned Avi's? She's like, he's on the Ozempi.
I think she said Ozempia.
Ozempia. Yep. So confirmed. Not we already knew.
But like truly, what is Sutton's and Garcelle's storyline this season? Like we have nothing.
I'm sorry, Garcelle has not had one for a very long time. Sutton has been in the mix where she was going toe to toe with Erica over Erica's divorce. Mm-hmm. But again, that wasn't her own thing. It was just that she was willing to speak up and ask questions. Right. So that carried her a bit. But I agree. We don't see a ton of Sutton's own
and
stuff.
Lisa Rinna, who seems to have gotten fired, but also kind of maybe mutually had that decision with them. There was a moment that she said Sutton and Garcelle are going to have to wake up and come to work, to like actually work, on the show. And I think she was like, because if you remember when Lisa Rinna left, she was so toxically in the mix with Kathy Hilton, like down almost like a bad path.
Yeah.
And she was looking at Garcelle and Sutton going like, how did they get to stay on this show? Mm-hmm. I've carried this show.
Yeah.
On with all these storylines, and like they are just like along for the ride.
Oh,
and
yeah. She was annoyed.
to me that like rings in my ears. It lives like rent free in my mind that they like are like, this is their storyline. The U-Haul.
Oh, please, Lord. Yeah. Garcelle having a beach house. That's our storyline here. Her son is getting into modeling. Shocker. She was a model. It's like, right. Okay. I agree. We need to see, like, I need to see Garcelle dating. Like, yeah. We don't see any of that. I don't know how much, I guess, she kind of touches on just all the stuff with her career, but it's very much like, I'm producing, I'm busy, I'm acting.
Well, and then you have Dorit and Garcelle were kind of the age-old enemies, right, between the two of them. But Dorit is like, she's like holding down such a massive plot line this season that Garcelle can't really like get herself into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We get to Kyle's
party,
Denim and Diamonds. Which seems to be like Morgan Wade inspired, but Morgan Wade is like nowhere to be found.
I was going to say, do you think she was like in the wings, like at the party, but just was like, I won't film?
It's like shocking. They're still together. Like I've seen
for sure
posts.
They're still hanging out.
I've seen posts of them like at Joanne Fabrics together, for example. Somebody like sniped them. And Kyle was making a offer on a house in Tennessee.
Really?
Yes. Like the offer fell through, but I mean, that's clearly for Morgan. I think it might have been with Morgan that they were potentially looking at the house.
My word.
So let's talk about Camille. Camille seems drunk when she's having this weird moment.
Camille is always a bit off. Is she remarried? I couldn't remember. Has she?
I think she was dating.
Fully remarried?
I thought she was dating a boyfriend.
Okay. Not that matters. I just was trying to like place where is Camille in her life right now.
Well, and she doesn't know Erica's name. I cackled so hard at that.
And her.
And Erica's like, Erica.
That was so funny.
Dorit basically calls her out too for like always like, quote unquote, needing a moment was the phrase she used, right? Of like, do you need a moment again, Camille?
Oh my God.
The C
word
funny.
Is just.
Yeah, getting thrown around.
It's like when someone's already on fire and they're directing it at someone else and someone interjects, the fire just comes to you. And Dorit's like, okay, you want to go? Here it comes.
It was like, oh, you have to be kidding me that Camille is trying to like pipe in with something.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me that Bose is siding with Dorit. Like they have like a good little kind of partnership going on because Dorit's never had that before where like there's been the new person that everyone wants to kind of like rub shoulders with and that person is just like automatically taking her side.
Normally the new person hates Dorit.
Right. And then Bose is also very smart.
Yeah.
Like, and logical and like settled
And
in a
the
way.
women are listening to her right away,
and
which
like,
just shows the like influence she
yeah,
has.
settled in a way that nobody on the show will ever be.
No.
So it's really interesting to like finally Dorit has like an ally that's like kind of like cooler and smarter than her.
Yeah.
On the after show, Bose sits with Dorit too.
You said that.
And she kind of says something that I thought was really interesting. She's like, I don't know Dorit from, years and years ago. I know this Dorit. I only know what this Dorit is giving.
Yeah.
So that's where she's like already kind of like, I think these women are like, you don't know how crazy Dorit has been over the years. And Bose is like, well, I don't know that.
I'm judging her off of right now.
I know this person right. Also interesting that Sutton tries to again become like the group
mediator.
Like, yeah. But is like so unhinged that she can't even like keep herself controlled enough to like get through the
That's
like,
where
thought.
I'm like, she's being so hypocritical because she's like, sisterhood. But by the way, Dorit, when you did, it's like, oh my God. Like, I guess she keeps trying to say we need to be open and honest.
Yeah. And Kyle at one point was like, so what are you trying to say? Like, get it off your chest. Get the weight off your chest.
I think it's because Sutton drinks too much. I think she loses the thread and then kind of forgets and then just gets mad.
Right. Or somebody gets mad at her and then she can only kind of go on that tangent. She can't like bring herself to what she actually wants to get through. Yeah. It's a good point.
Keep an eye out. I'll be looking at Kyle's lips and we'll see if they do more cut tos of how much vodka Sutton's drinking. And Sutton is tiny.
Yeah, right. She's lost a lot of weight. All right, so let's see. The last thing, the one last thing that we didn't mention was the fact that PK is texting Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
And Garcelle think that's like super weird. I think that's weird.
Agree, but also from the sounds of it, it's like he's sending funny memes and like that stuff. He's not going, hi, Kyle, having a really rough day. Like Dorit's not messaging me about the kid. Like he's not opening up to her like that. It sounds like they're on a thread and he's sending. Agree. I just kind of think communication should stop.
If we had, like, if I was divorcing my husband and then he was texting you, I'd be like, why? Yeah. Stop.
Exactly. And it would be totally the same situation. I could see Kunal and Vince still talking. Yeah. But I would never be, like, part of that.
I think even on a good day, like, even if Dorit and PK were still married, that if PK was privately texting Kyle, I would be like, stop.
Yeah. And the fact that Kyle's going through a divorce, it's weird.
Yeah, right.
It's weird.
Well, there was all that rumors that Dorit and Mauricio were together. But then Mauricio, like, don't give a fuck right now. And he's out in Aspen, like, dating every woman out there. Yeah, and it, like, quickly was brushed under the rug because he was seen.
It's a great, juicy, like, imagine if it were true, but there really is no truth to it.
Mauricio is, like, he's dating younger and hotter than Dorit at this point in his life.
I know. Yeah, Dorit's too old for him right now.
I think he's doing a
Your
little,
age
like,
needs to start with a 2 for Mauricio right now.
I think he's pulling a little like Leonardo DiCaprio moment.
Second you at 26, you're too old.
Right. Okay, Southern Charm. That's our last one.
Yes.
So since we've last talked, Southern Charm has
aired.
Like come back in.
Yeah.
So just setting the scene, we have Austin dating someone, Shep dating someone. JT has had this odd near-death experience and become good friends with Venita.
Okay, are we not going to get any, like, backstory? Are Venita and her boyfriend done? We haven't heard him mentioned.
No, you're right.
So, clearly they're trying to, like, line it up that, like, JT and Venita are going to have a little flirty something. Not a mention, like, I think she was long distance with that guy. Mm-hmm. There's been nothing about him. I'm like,
you're
okay,
right.
so is he gone? What's happening?
And Venita, JT's like an odd
he
duck.
He is a weirdo.
And Venita was always, I thought, the most normal out of everybody on the show.
And just like total cool girl.
Yeah, like almost like too cool to be on the actual show.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's like such an odd pairing.
It's an odd.
It feels
odd
very
couple.
like kind of what's left. You know, like they're matching up together more out of convenience than about than like, oh, they're actually really
because
into each other.
JT clearly has to fall away from Taylor with his huge crush,
Yeah.
and Taylor's dating the new guy. So he's like, what other lady in the group can I sidle up to?
So Taylor's dating Gaston, who we actually heard about first on Leva's show,
Yep.
Southern Hospitality.
Like you said, so much crossover.
Mm-hmm. Molly and Sally are new. So just going down the quick hits, and it seems like they're trying to make Rodrigo happen still.
Yeah.
As like the kind of token gay guy, but could care less.
Well,
I don't really like him. I don't really think he brings much. But
I don't know. I don't think he brings much, but I love some of his comments. I think he'll have funny commentary.
And then Whitney and Patricia are like back. Like usually I feel
lot
like
more.
Yeah. Usually I
than
feel like we
previous.
get like 1 out of 5 episodes they're on like 30
Agree.
seconds of. This one they're like
They've been on every single one.
They're like holding the plot together on
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah.
And Whitney seems drunk just the entire time.
Whitney
he's
is...
sipping the Pappy Van Winkle. He's clearly drunk at the Easter dinner.
Yeah.
Like he just seems like he's turned a corner and living very drunk.
I wonder if it's like finally catching up to him that like he's just like, damn, I'm like old and I'm still doing this.
Because how old would he be? He's
in his 50s.
Yeah.
How disturbing is that?
Sutton, Jenna, and Whitney, all in their 50s.
Oh my God. The fact that Whitney is almost 30 years older than like a Sally and a Molly
Yeah, right.
is so disturbing that he's still partying kind of
It's
with
crazy.
them.
It just goes to show you like how you act versus your age. Age is nothing but a number. That was that R. Kelly song. But it's kind of...
We see how that turned out, so
I mean, yeah.
watch out, Whitney.
Whitney's doing some... he had that comment with Molly, you know, where he was...
That was so horrible.
That can't be how you show up on this on this season. Like
Right.
that you're saying weird stuff to girls.
He literally could be her father. He's making comments about her weight. Like, cringe.
Okay, so Taylor and Shep, clearly there's still competition there. At the dog party, you know.
Why is there always a dog-themed thing in Southern
And they
Charm?
all bring the dogs, too. Like, they're, like, Madison's got, like, the poodle of her friend. It's like,
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't need to show up with a dog to the dog party.
It's okay if you don't have one. I follow just the influencer Not Skinny But Not Fat.
Oh, I don't know.
She just cracked me up. She was watching Southern Charm and she goes, one thing I will say, I will always fast forward through a dog like scene.
Well, it had some like
she herself has a dog, this
Yeah.
influencer. Like she's just like, I hate this. Like they had the dog wedding a season or two ago. It's like, oh my God.
But it was probably the first time that whole group has actually been together. Like
Yeah.
that
it was
is-
the excuse to bring
that to me is why you're keeping Rodrigo around, is because he's neutral enough to where he has like something like that.
The dog party.
That's why you're keeping Patricia around
Yeah.
and Whitney, because she has the Easter thing and they bring them together.
Yeah.
I feel like what's odd is this group always feels like they don't really talk to each other on the off season, and they take
Yeah.
4 group outings to really get back in the mix with each
That
other.
is so true.
Yeah.
Other than the guys.
Right.
The guys are truly
But-
friends. But even then there's been that distance with Craig.
And they've called that out now for a couple of seasons. This is
Yeah.
not the first time we're hearing the distance between Austin and
Right.
Craig and
Right.
Shep. Like, it's like they've called that out. So it feels to me like this group needs like to get warmed up. And the dog party, I agree with the
Yeah.
influencer. Like,
Yeah.
who gives a fuck about a dog party? But it's bringing the group together.
They thought Gaston would be there.
Yeah.
But it made Taylor have to confront Shep and his new girl.
Mm-hmm.
It brought Audrey, Austin's new girlfriend, into the mix.
Right.
So then there was that awkwardness
Sienna,
too.
right.
Sienna, I could
It
not
also,
remember
when
her
will
name.
Taylor actually film with this group, if not for some of those larger group parties?
Oh,
Because, like, who
right.
is she really, like...
friends with?
Right. And the entirety
Yeah.
of this episode was her and Gaston, like, kind of doing their own thing. Like, there was no
Yeah.
group
you're
moment.
right.
So you need... That's what I'm saying. Rodrigo is being
And
held...
then she sidled up to Rodrigo at
Yes.
that party. Like
Right.
she felt like she.
He's being held on this because of... He's,
Yeah.
like, clearly a bridge between all of them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Very true. But the big bombshell was JT saying, I think Madison's husband thinks something happened with us, like
I know.
in Mexico or wherever they were the year, like previous trip.
Well, and then Madison, when she confronts him, like digs so hard at him. I was like, come on, Madison.
That's where I am a little bit like, okay, that's just getting really mean. When she's like, have you looked in a mirror?
Yeah.
Like, my husband is so hot. Like,
And
I would cheat with you.
Also,
I was like, okay, that's like really mean.
Right. It went a little too deep. But also, like, the husband called them. You know, like,
yeah.
Like, you can't sit there. It is weird.
It is a little strange. Like, and Madison admitted, I don't know if she was on Watch Happens Live or something, but I did see someone going, so wait, are we even going to find out? Did a phone call even happen? And Madison goes, no, a phone call did happen. And then I agree. I was like, oh, I don't think you're like so clearly like
Right.
on the right side of this.
Yeah. I don't know. That, because I do think JT has a little bit of a leg to stand in that it happened, and he deserves to be able to debrief with the guys, and the guys to be able to go, oh, yeah.
But what Madison mentioned was that Brett was more like, oh, people went back to your room. And she goes, he kind of wanted to know that I wasn't having a one-on-one, like, I don't know if she said a kiki, but like a one-on-one with Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually that he was worried that Austin might have been in the mix. Right. Nothing about JT.
Right, which JT was barking up the wrong tree, but where there was smoke, there was fire. There was something.
It did show that Brett maybe had a little bit of an insecurity from that trip.
There was something going on for him to call him. So JT wasn't wrong in bringing the phone call up. Like, you know, anyway, so just weird. Craig needs to either come and participate on Southern Charm and like be happy to be there, or he needs to like see himself out.
Well, what the heck now with his breakup?
I mean, I think he's gonna go back to Austin Shep and he's gonna go like relive.
You think
know.
He's gonna go party it back up? Like he's been like sober and
of course. I feel like Craig, it's like pulling teeth for Craig to be around on some of this stuff. It feels like
he does always seem like like just tired and like
or show us the pillow stuff, Craig. Like you don't need to like sit there and act like you're boys with Shep and Austin anymore, but like show us your life a little bit.
Yeah. Other than it's like we keep seeing his house and his pool looks beautiful. His backyard looks great. Who the heck? Craig has got to be now one of like the most eligible bachelors. Yeah. That's the one thing with a public breakup. I'm always like, who are they going to date next? Right. I do love to see who the rebound is. Not even Bravo people, like celebrities too. Like, you know, when the whole Jennifer Aniston, Brad Pitt, you're like, who is she going to date next?
Okay, so then we have Molly and Sally. It's kind of our last two kind of newcomers. I think both of them are going to be really good ads. Molly is like so crazy to me that she was on America's Next Top Model.
I know.
And then she said to Andy they cut off all of her hair and then immediately sent her home, which I like.
She's like, cool, thanks.
That's like what Tyra was known for. Is she would like really shake up the girls' looks, but like not always in a good way.
No.
And then
realize like, oh, that didn't work. Bye.
That's kind of what Molly alluded to happening. Like they thought that she would look really good and she looked disgusting, and then sent her home.
Yeah.
Interesting too, her storyline is like, I've gained weight. I think Bravo's going to get some backlash on that.
You think?
I don't think you can be Molly, who is thinner than me.
Yeah.
And look like her, and then sit there and say, I'm 40 pounds heavy. I just think it's going to be triggering
40
for a lot of people.
How the hell did you gain 40? Yeah. So Sally, though, did you know she was on The Bachelor?
Oh, no, I did not.
So, oh my God, I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure, I do not remember who The Bachelor was, but there was a season, it was pre COVID era, because she's not that old. It was around the COVID time where there was a scene where the night before all the women were coming to the mansion and like whatever, the Bachelor was told a girl is actually leaving. He hadn't even met her yet because she still was like caught up with like an ex-fiance and like had feelings and like got cold feet and was like, I don't think I'm ready for a new thing. And the guy like went to her hotel room to try to convince her to stay, even though he'd never met her. He was almost like he didn't want to lose out on like one other option.
Right.
But she still chose to leave. pretty sure that was all Sally.
Oh, wow.
So I get the little bit, we all know that like these women, like, you know, when you hear like, oh, so-and-so was on an episode of this 5 years ago before they get cast, like they're always in the mix. But when I was like, she was on The Bachelor, she was on Southern Hospitality, and now she's like, I've hit the big leagues. Like, I am a full-time cast member on Southern Charm.
That's what it feels like. She played in the minors, and now she's called up to the majors. You know?
She's like hooked up with a lot of guys to get there.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Had a thing with Gaston, so now she'll have drama with Taylor. Slept with Shep one time, and now we'll have a thing with Taylor. It's like, okay.
The weird thing is, though, is like on Southern Hospitality, like, will they show her? Like, will she literally be on 2?
No, I don't think she's on Southern Hospitality at all.
But she was.
Oh, and I forgot. Had a thing with Joe Bradley on Southern Hospitality.
That's what I'm saying. But she, I mean, if she works at.
I think she's just off that and on Southern Charm now.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've never had somebody actively be on 2 shows as, like, main characters.
Right. Yeah, cause, I mean...
Like, Paige is on 2 shows, but...
Leva is so side character on both.
Yeah, she's... right. Paige is on 2, but clearly she's...
Oh, yeah, so side in Southern Charm.
It'll be interesting. Sally, and then also Gaston. I mean, they're...
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they're in that group of friends from Southern Hospitality, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, Bravo, what are we doing here? That's kind of how
they're trying to like skew younger because they're probably going, we have Whitney as a 55-year-old man still on Southern Charm. We need to bring in some like mid-20s.
Yeah, right.
It is like you graduate from Southern Hospitality, and I think this is going to be their like feeding ground into...
Yeah. I also get this very big sense that Miss Patricia actually pulls a lot more strings of who gets on the show and who doesn't.
Who she likes.
Yeah.
Who she
and I don't think she like has, I don't think, it feels very Lisa Vanderpump, but the one thing is that she has those dinners or she has those little parties and let's be real, Patricia's 80 and she's having like a dinner party with like people who are 40 and younger.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's odd.
It
if you
is
think
odd.
about it.
It is odd.
But she's manufacturing these like group events for the show. So I don't think she gets to necessarily like pick like, oh, Sally's on versus not, but she does get to say Molly gets to come to dinner. So Molly by default gets more screen time versus Taylor, who will never come to Miss Patricia's dinner.
Yeah.
And by default never have those like interactions, you know?
That's very true.
Anyway, we'll see. Oh, the last thing I was going to talk to you about was JT. I mean, it's not a spoiler alert, right? He gets
left.
He gets, and I kind of investigated like what happened with that. Apparently, now this is like, I'm like shorthanding this, but apparently he becomes the villain massively this season. Yeah. And then when the going gets tough for him, meaning like somebody catches him on something or, you know, the Austin of it all where Austin says like, everyone's going to see who you really are. Mm-hmm. Something happens like that, Jessica. And that's when he abruptly gets up and like leaves.
Oh, okay.
And everybody, Madison, Austin, Shep, like they all have these quotes that I was reading this article that basically was like, you want to call everybody out on all of their stuff, and then the second people find something with you are like, you know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff like, you aren't the gentleman you try to claim to be. Yeah.
But specifically, like, he gets put in the hot seat for like a second and was like, I'm not doing this, I'm out.
Which, good riddance.
Yeah.
He's a weirdo, I'm glad.
But I don't know, to me, I'm like, what would you talk about if you didn't have JT?
It's true. Well, curious what the drama's going to be that he brings before he pieces out.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, so let's move on to what are the kids talking about these days?
Yes. So the poor Gen Zers, it says they're not doing well financially or mentally, but in a recent study, 38% of Gen Zers currently feel like they're experiencing a midlife crisis.
Oh, wow.
The article even says there was no explanation for why a more age-appropriate phrase like quarter life crisis wasn't used. But yes, that I was like, wow, if Gen Zers are having midlife, they're only living till like 50. But anyway, take that with a grain of salt that they use the term midlife. Very much around finances. So again, I feel like we've talked a lot about like, no wonder this generation is so depressed when they're seeing the inflation, like how hard you have to work to try to make ends meet and all that. But it made me wonder, do you feel like you ever had a moment like quarter life. Sadly,
but I feel like
we kind of could be having midlife
Yeah.
crisis at our age now.
I feel like anybody who, I don't know, exists in the world has a midlife crisis on every so often.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. I was trying to think if I ever had I don't feel like I had a defining moment, but there was definitely where it was like things were compounding of like, I'm still single, not finding my person. I hate my job. Like, I would say that was probably my point. It was probably like 2019, 2020 maybe.
Yeah. I think you have to, right? But Gen Z to me does this weird thing where everything becomes a thing.
Yes.
Like it's like for us, we had those moments. We probably called our mom or our friend, and our friend or mom gave us a pep talk, and then we got off our ass and got a new job or got back on the dating apps. You know, like there was always like that little heave ho that you had to do for yourself. But Gen Z is like very like, I'm going to raise my hand culturally and say, we are having midlife crisis. So like, you know, let me have the crisis. And it's like,
and I need to take a mental health day.
Yeah, right. And it's like, boo-boo, we've all gone through this stuff.
Right. Just
I've also
work through it.
I've been hearing that Gen Z's getting fired a lot more.
Yes. So a lot of them are just saying it's financial, and then that's leading to mental health things. And yeah, I mean, good Lord, anytime I try to look for, you know, something in the news or article, there are so many about them in the workplace. And I was like, we can't keep talking about how they suck in the workplace. But
well, the odd thing too is like they're the generation of TikTok, like, and you always think like, just go do a side hustle. Like if you don't like your current status, like aren't you
get TikTok famous?
Yeah, aren't you the group that like can go make $1 million on OnlyFans and the side hustle? Like why aren't you just doing that? Especially if financial is the problem, you know?
Just start an OnlyFans. We solved your problem.
I see all that. I'm like, I wish I could start an OnlyFans and live to tell about it.
There's nothing, you know what, Lauren? They're not always sexual. You could find your little niche OnlyFans.
I'll just have a foot in the shot. Not even like foot fetishes, just like a foot in the shot.
It's just a single foot. That's all
like
my
kicking
pages.
out in a shot. Okay, so conspiracy theories.
Lauren, I've been missing these. I need to.
Yeah, so the one I could not figure out, it does not make sense to me, Jessica. So I even tried to research it and say, I'm going to bring this today to make some sense of it, and I could not.
I'm still confused.
Is the drones over New Jersey?
Yeah.
I cannot. There's so much fake stuff with it, so we're not going to even touch that one. The two I'm going to talk about, one is the Louis Magioni case.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, who have been living under the rock, Luigi, thank you. He shot the United Healthcare CEO. So there's a lot of nuggets, I would say, around this. Nobody has been able to string together a narrative that actually makes sense to me, but the nuggets are the following, right? So he does not feel like he's actually the person that shot the CEO. And here's the reasons why, right? He was wearing something similar, but not the exact same thing that the shooter had on when he was arrested. So it was like the shooter's jacket was black, his was gray. The shooter's
backpack
was different brand.
Yeah.
I noticed this the first time I looked at it, but he has a massive unibrow, or he had at the time of the arrest. Yeah. And it was a pretty grown-in one, and the shooter clearly does not, which there's a bunch of actual hairstylists coming out saying it would take a moment to grow in a unibrow like that. You don't just show up the next day with a unibrow.
This isn't a 5 o'clock shadow situation.
And the shooter does not have a unibrow. That is like a huge piece to this. They caught him on footage leaving the hostel at 5:35 a.m. And they then claimed that he showed up and shot the CEO at the Hilton at 5:41. If you Google map how long the hostel versus the Hilton was, it's about a 19 miles, right? And they said that he got on a bike and he rode that. And
you can't go that far.
You can't go that far.
Fast.
That fast in that amount of time.
No.
You would have had to have a motor on your bike, like an actual electric motor to get you there that fast. So there's that piece that doesn't make sense.
Sorry, also New York, you can't fly through every light. You're going to get stopped and slowed down.
They've also added a terrorist charge to all of his charges. And people are saying they're doing that for two things. One is Terrorist charge, basically what that means is I think there's something different that happens with the jury. So they don't think that any jury is going to convict him of this because the amount of people who have actually come out in support of him is shocking.
Yeah.
So they've added a terrorist charge that does something different in the legal proceeding, and it also basically makes every charge worse. So if you have a terrorist charge that you're convicted of, instead of having like a year in jail, you have 5 years if you're convicted on other pieces as well.
Okay.
So they've added
ups the ante
right,
of
ups
everything.
the ante. So they've had that. Now, this is also Luigi is left-handed. It seems like the shooter was right-handed.
Oh God, I hadn't heard that one.
And then also the fact that he was caught at the McDonald's with the gun.
Yeah.
And a manifesto in his backpack.
Hadn't ditched any of that.
It's like anybody would have done that. The stupidest crackhead alive would have ditched the gun and not walked around with a manifesto 2 days after a shooting.
And did they ever, I remember the first bit of info when they were still on the manhunt for who did it. They found a backpack in Central Park and I thought they said it was the shooter's. So it's like he ditched the backpack he had on him that he used, but moved the gun and manifesto to a new bag that he kept moving
and he carried that with him for the next 2 days. It doesn't add up.
There are so many strange parts.
It doesn't add up at all. And you can tell, like, even though these are conspiracy theorists, like, I also am sitting there like, somebody needs to explain this because this doesn't make sense.
I agree. So there are too many weird things in this case. But then I just keep going back to, why is this guy being framed? Mm-hmm. Like, who is he?
Right.
Why is he the one picked? Is he literally been picked out of obscurity? Or is he on some radar? Do you know what I mean? Like, if he didn't do it, why is he arrested?
But to me, like, the CIA is someone involved in this case, which is also a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Like, they could have a variety of reasons of why they've, like, just targeted this guy. Also, this is odd and not really related to what I just said, but on his profile, his X profile, he clearly has he had a spinal injury.
Yes.
And they were saying that the spinal injury was bad enough to where he couldn't even have intimate relations.
Yeah.
So how could he have maneuvered through these steps of shooting this guy, getting on the bike,
right?
You know, so quickly when he can't even have basically like sex with somebody,
because they're using that as his motive, that clearly at some point medical care has been denied, and well, that was why
the thing that they're saying happened to him is something called 286. So on his X profile, he has this weird Pokemon, and the Pokemon, if you look at like the number that the Pokemon is, I don't know, like there's an archive of Pokemon and they all have numbers, is 286. So, and then it's like he had 286 tweets and he has 286 followers. So all these conspiracy theorists are pulling together this 286. What 286 is basically a denial claim coverage where if you take too long to appeal a claim, basically they don't have to do anything on it. And so 286 is what everybody is stringing together as like basically what maybe happened to him with his neck injury. But that would be the motive, right? That you would bring to court is like you would say you were mad at the CEO because of this 286 denial claim that happened. Yeah. Who knows? I personally don't think this is. I think this guy is not it. I don't think this the shooter.
It's too many weird things. I think it's him either.
I mean, the fact that he's left-handed versus right, that seems like
if that's true.
One. Yeah.
I can hardly brush my teeth with my left hand.
And you're shooting
and
someone?
And you think I can accurately hold a gun, and presumably this guy is not some trained sharpshooter.
Right.
Okay, I had not heard the left-handed thing.
I mean, I saw it. I heard it on Reddit, which has been wrong in the past. So, my conspiracy theories are not always right. So
yes, take everything with a grain of
salt. Grain of salt. Alleged. It's all alleged. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So then, conspiracy theory number 2. So this I got from News Updates for Real. This influencer. So I've like copied him basically. So I'm giving him credit. Scientists and governments are sounding the alarm on a bird flu pandemic.
Oh, yep.
So this is getting weird because basically that's what they've pinpointed as the next pandemic if there is one to happen.
Great.
So let's talk about some of these pieces that the conspiracy theorists are bringing up. This guy's bringing up. One is the birds, for the virus to jump between a bird to a mammal to a human, usually takes a really long time.
Okay.
And so the fact that this is happening so fast is odd to them.
Okay.
What was happening is the birds were infecting cow herds, and then the cow herds were infecting people who were tending to the cow herds. And that's how they knew that this virus was jumping.
Being, transmitted.
So 2023, USA and Japan basically started stockpiling in all these bird flu vaccines. That happened a year ago. They were stockpiling on them. Okay. USA also has a $150 million deal with Moderna to create a bird flu vaccine. That's already been, in the works. And then this guy mentions back to like the 1930s, there were scientists who fought to resume a highly controversial, study to test and create different mutations and versions of the bird flu. So what this is he's putting all together, right, is like basically it's man-made, it's manufactured, and very similar to COVID. And what we now kind of think or know about COVID virus, which is that it escaped from a lab, is that there's some predictability that somewhere along the line there's going to be another pandemic, and it's going to be that the
even more sinister part is that it's purposely being released.
Right. And the last piece, which is separate of what this guy was saying, but basically Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2009, a grant was given to UWM-Madison to study the bird flu vaccine. So the bird flu pandemic has been on people's radars for a moment, but now it seems to be getting heightened. And this influencer is like saying, like, connect the dots, people. Like, they're going to like release this from a lab and basically like manufacture another pandemic. I don't think this is real, Jessica. I think what's happened is people have been watching this virus and like realizing that it is starting to jump to mammals. That it is something that, is becoming more prevalent where more people are getting it. And because of that, they are doing these things.
In preparation.
Versus the conspiracy theorists think they're doing all these things
to release it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is where the conspiracy theorists get it twisted, right? Where they want to explain weird stuff that's happening. It's like, it seems like the people who watch over us are seeing that the bird flu is becoming a thing. And now we're trying to take preventative action against it.
Right. Well, like, pun intended, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
But remember, like, when we were just catching up a few days ago and we were talking about the pharmaceutical companies and their revenues, and they saw how profitable COVID was. It is a little interesting. Like, is bird flu going to be our next big thing we'll just make billions off of because everyone will freak out and everyone will go get this vaccine?
Right. You don't love to hear that there's a deal with Moderna to create a vaccine.
No, that's
already in the works.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be a little more suspect when I'm told I'm going to die of bird flu if I don't get this vaccine.
Right. Anyway, news updates for real. That's where I got a lot of that information. So probably a little bit of ledge there as well.
So blame them if...
Blame that person, not us. But, that's conspiracy theory number 2 is, are they manufacturing a bird flu pandemic? Now, the last thing I'll say is it doesn't seem like the virus is able to move between humans. It seems like these people are getting it from the cows, and then, but it's not like you give it to me.
Okay, that's more reassuring.
Yeah, reassuring. I'm going to go to sleep at night going,
I don't hang with many birds or cows at the moment. I don't live on a farm, totally fine. So we should be okay.
But that is it. Those are your 2 conspiracy theories. There's a lot going on since we've last talked, but those are the ones that I found to be the most straightforward.
You're like that I could even try to summarize.
Like I said, those drones, I'm not touching that.
I haven't even looked into them too hard because they just confuse me. So.
And people got grainy ass, footage.
The usual, like we said. Why is the UFO footage never crystal clear?
And it's always like pointing it up into a night sky and you're looking at like this small little like thing moving.
Dot.
I'm like, I can't even tell if that's a plane.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just doing this for clout. So anyway, those were the ones I could make sense of.
Love it.
Good talking to you, Jessica.
You too, Lauren.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.